Okay, it's 7:01 PM and I will call this meeting to order. Uh, Review and approve minutes.
TBD.
Next item, review and sign bills.
No bills this evening.
No bills. Any board member comments?
Nope. Not today.
All right, we're on the road. New business. Review, draft build out analysis, phase one.
Yeah, so the department applied for DLTA funding, which is District Local Technical Assistance funding, through CMRPC, which is the Central Massachusetts Regional Planning Agency. CMRPC and other regional planning agencies across the state sometimes are there to offer planning services. Certain towns do not have those planning services. Luckily we do, but sometimes we can get funding if we want to do projects that are a little bit out of our capacity. So this project this DLT funding was to develop a build-out analysis for Shrewsbury. The objective of the analysis was to conduct a comprehensive analysis of the town to assess the potential for future development based on current zoning regulations, land use policies, infrastructure, and environmental constraints. And the process utilizes statewide geographic data sets to quantify the amount of developable land within a given community. These analyses can also estimate the future population, solid waste, water use, and other potential development impacts that would result from a full build-out of a community under a set of zoning and environmental constraints. And I think why we brought this to the board's attention was the build-out analysis uses similar criteria that the planning department developed in collaboration with the trust to identify town-owned vacant parcels that would be most suitable to develop affordable housing. Some of these constraints identified were permanently protected open space, water bodies and features, existing structures, and transmissions line right-of-way, as well as other partial constraints like topographies, proximity to wetlands, and other constraints. And so I think kind of from this, the trust, we were thinking the trust can take some time to review this and, let me know if you have any questions about the, build out analysis. Do you want kind of CMRPC to present, to provide a final presentation and, look at, some of the comments. And you can kind of, once you review this, we can forward these comments to CMRPC if you have any ideas. There is a whole section on how they, calculated how many housing units would be built, if Shrewsbury was fully built that way. And also there is a phase 2, so this is just the first phase. Phase 2 will go into a deeper phase, into different topics. So I think with the deeper, especially I think why we were, one of the major reasons why we were looking at the build analysis was our water and sewer capacity is limited. We currently have a moratorium, not imposed by the town, but imposed by DEP, Mass DEP, because our sewer facilities are connected to the Westboro sewer treatment plant. So there are certain places in town where you cannot create a new utility sewer line, but you can connect to an existing one. So that kind of diminishes or limits where in town you can build new housing. And so there's currently a needs area, which is probably the south of town near needs area where you can actually build housing, the south of town near Hartford Turnpike and Suntec Boulevard, around that area where there is currently housing being proposed or being built, along with the northern part of town near Clinton Street, I believe. So these are the two needs areas where you can build new connections. Other parts of the town you have to connect to existing connections, and if you can't, you have to build a septic tank. So that's kind of the limitations. So yeah, we kind of, if you take some time to review this and let me know if you have questions.
I took a look at this
Okay.
this afternoon, and
Sure.
there's just a lot of information
Right.
here. And I think it would be beneficial if there's someone to present it to us in layman's terms.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
I was thinking the same thing. I was like,
Yeah, I can invite TMRPC. I know their schedule has not really matched ours, but I can, reach out to them and see. I'm not sure if the July, but for August, definitely they can, come. Or like we could reach out and see if they can come in to the August meeting to present.
right, and if they have something, that's easier to read, a little cheat sheet maybe that they can
Mhm.
circulate before.
Definitely.
Just help us, wrap our heads around it.
Right.
Especially as we look at the vacant town-owned land.
so this pertains to existing possible building space. in
Right.
town. Okay.
It takes into account, existing structures that are already there and not,
And not,
Okay, any other questions?
No.
So if we can, let's just put a meeting on the books.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Next item is the MHP Housing Institute update.
So as the board is aware, there was MHP conference in Worcester last week on June 4th and 5th. The two-day training engaged participants in discussion and problem-solving activities related to the development of affordable homes across Massachusetts. And so the conference involved, different sessions you could attend depending on if you are looking more into policy, if you're looking into more community engagement. And so the first day was I attended major sessions around the process of building affordable housing on town-owned land. The first session was around, they looked at an example of Gloucester and looked at the parcel that they had, and that parcel had a lot of challenges. It was in the center of town and it had topography issues. So that was one session. The second session, we did like a whole process where we looked at an RFP, an example RFP, and we looked at, that the town would give to developers, and we looked at the conditions and kind of saw, which was too much and which wasn't. So now we kind of have an idea of like, what are some reasonable asks in an RFP to an affordable housing developer? When we do find that parcel, we would, we would send an RFP for bidding, to see which developers we would who are interested, and then kind of once they respond to ours, we would have certain criteria of how we would select a developer. So that was kind of good to know.
Did they talk about how the challenges were resolved?
Yes, they did. There were, I have to kind of look back to my notes. I think one of my topics for July is I'm going to write an official memo where I kind of detail each of the sessions and kind of what are some key takeaways from that.
great.
So that's kind of, that's in the works right now. I think some of the challenges, I'm going to remember some challenges that they did, that they kind of went through with the housing developer. I think the main challenge was it was a long time. It was over a period of 5 or 6 years because they lost funding, they had to, during COVID, so they had to come back to it a few years later. So I think the major challenge I remember was the length of time through this, in the process. But, you keep on kind of the developer's motto was, keep on reaching out. Public engagement is very important. In the first steps, you have to be very proactive and give reasons why this is something that the town would need, and kind of work with the town as much as possible, have that good relationship. So that was important. And then at the end of the day, I actually toured 2 different affordable housing projects in Worcester. One was at the Grand Street Commons, which contains about 48 apartments, 2 ground floor commercial spaces, and a courtyard and solar panels. And 46 of those apartments are affordable at or below 60% AMI. And 10 of those are reserved for families making at least below 30% AMI. The development transformed a long blighted vacant parcel and continues the revitalization efforts of the adjacent Kilby Gardner Hammond neighborhood. It kind of, I think it abuts University Park in Worcester. I didn't know Worcester that well before, so I think that was like that field trip was a good to visit Worcester. So there's a lot of open space nearby, even if that parcel didn't have as much open space. So that was the first one. The second one, we visited the formerly vacant Worcester County Courthouse that was redeveloped by Trinity Financial and is now 117 unit mixed income rental community at the center of Lincoln Square. Of the development, 177 units, 66 are affordable to extremely low and low income households, and 45 are workforce housing units. And we visited a workforce housing unit, which I think was $2,000 for a 3-bedroom. So that was a workforce. That was interesting to see. And it was really, they kind of preserved the interior as much as possible while also kind of developing the units. They actually have a museum also dedicated to, I forgot what his name was, but he was a famous biker at the time. He was termed the fastest.
Major Taylor.
Yes, the fastest man in the world, because at the time cars couldn't go that fast beyond 30 to 40 miles. So it was really interesting to see that within the development. So I think what I'm going to do, a follow-up, is I'm going to give an official update about the MHP conference in a memo at the July meeting, which will go in depth of what the sessions were about and what are some key takeaways from the sessions I attended. The second day was community engagement focused, like looking at ways we can have community engagement related to affordable housing. Looking at a Lego activity and also something called text banking, which is where you have a person text immediate neighbors around there, so it gets the word out faster than traditional ways of community engagement. So kind of looking at ways to be more proactive, going to people rather than expecting residents to come to us. And I was looking at also what are some ways the Affordable Housing Trust can also be like ways to disseminate information to the public, what questions they have about projects or about affordable housing in town. I had some questions about how we can be also more proactive. So it was good to talk to, I met different housing trust people. I met the housing trust, a member from Littleton. They're doing a rental assistance program. I met the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust in Westboro, who would be more than glad to meet with any of you during coffee. So he was like, reach out if you ever want to meet him. So I can give you his contact information, and then also we can, probably similar to how we talked to Joseph Townsend from Habitat, we can have like a internal call as well before. That would be good. Yeah.
And is Worcester doing any projects that are in a smaller scale, like what we're looking at?
I think the ones that you toured, the Habitat ones, I think are the smaller scale ones. Yeah, which are probably more in line with what we're trying to do with the smaller vacant land parcels. So I can see that. Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, just actually I do have some questions. Thank you for attending that and for committing to share the notes that you took.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any resources and papers or PowerPoints that they've shared with you as a registrant, but if that could be shared with us, I think that would be great too, just
Yeah.
for us to look at.
I thought they would share it. I haven't received anything, so I can reach out to MHP and see if they will share something.
I think that'd be
Yeah.
that'd be great. Make it easier.
Yeah, it'll make it easier for me.
Exactly.
And I appreciate. I know you just shared a little bit about some of the public engagement stuff. I
Mhm.
think that's something that we as a trust want to do a little bit more of. We've talked about it in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having maybe CMRPC do a presentation or something to help educate the community about our housing needs and
Mhm.
challenges.
Right.
I feel like that's more important now more than ever,
Right.
really, especially as we continue to see development in the town.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of questions about, the town's role in certain parcels and certain properties, and I think helping the community understand the limitations, our role as a trust, our role as a town,
Mm-hmm.
I think would be beneficial. So I look forward to hearing and learning more about some of the ways that they, some of the strategies that they shared with you on
Yeah.
public engagement, and hope that we can try to push
Yeah.
to do something of our own as well.
Right.
Oh no!
Oh, so, has anyone toured the name of the development, the new one that just opened on Route 20?
Elmwood?
Elmwood.
Not yet. There has been, I think building department has, I don't think we have. Maybe that can be something official, Affordable Housing Trust, we can make like a group public meeting and have all of us tour that. I think that would be something. Okay.
I can get that invitation.
Cool.
I know them, so
Okay.
we can get a tour there. I have personally toured the development.
Mm-hmm. I toured it when it was on construction. I don't know how it is now.
It's unbelievable.
Great.
So, I think you will be pleasantly surprised at the finished product.
This is the one by Stony Hill?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
so I can do that. We'll get some dates. Great. Any other questions? No. Okay, vacant town and parcel inventory.
Yeah, so I think since the last few months, I've been working to analyze town-owned parcels for the purpose of developing affordable housing on that land. We were working with our GIS coordinator to refine draft criteria, and looking at the criteria once we got the few parcels, trying to narrow it down to a manageable number so that we can do a deeper analysis of parcels that we can actually develop housing on. And I kind of included two different maps for you to see today. The first map is parcels with a purple and light green. I don't know, you see two major colors. So the light green ones were the ones that I eliminated for the purpose of open space. So all of those were included as Town of Shrewsbury owned. But there were a lot of them where you had to look at their deed, and their deed restricted to open space covenants. And also a lot of them are abutting, wetlands. They're part of a greater part of open space, so there wasn't really, or they're irregularly shaped, so there wasn't really any merit in keeping them on our vacant town-owned list. And that was to about, I rounded up to 22, and then how I got to 16 was there were a lot of smaller ones that were not really captured. I have to look and see, because when I look at the map, I'm like, oh, I only see a few purple ones. So there are a lot of tiny ones that I kind of eliminated that were abutting open space as well, to come to around 16. And so the second map is shows parcels in purple or pink, which have been identified for the purpose of affordable housing. And I think they're around 16. And I didn't print it out, but I included on the drive for the board to view the list of the vacant parcel list. So a couple of them, 170 Green Street, 215 Lake Street, 31 and 31R Cypress Avenue, so kind of, I think the goal from here is, now that we have it, I want to work with CMRPC to do a more in-depth analysis because given our capacity, I think it would be easier to work with CMRPC so we can have less, we can, do the analysis in less time and also give the board time to view, once we get an analysis to view that.
So, do you have, what's the,
That one is 419 Walnut Street.
It's a nice big parcel.
Mhm.
It is.
Can we prioritize and look at the larger ones
Yeah.
first?
Mm-hmm.
We have that one and, I'm not familiar with it.
That is
Just over.
40 Farmington Drive.
And then the one by,
The school.
yes.
Yeah, that's 31 and 31R Cypress Avenue. Yeah. I think that might be an issue because I don't know if there's a direct road connection
Road.
to that
Yeah.
other than the school. So that makes a major issue. We can see, yeah.
Wasn't there like an over 55 development that was supposed to be going?
Yeah, Greenbrier nearby.
Yeah, it didn't go through?
No, it is under construction, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, thank you for asking.
That's in that area.
Well, I didn't know if,
Well, if we can get one or two, a couple of,
Mhm.
options out of this, that's.
Yeah, I think a deeper dive would be a zoning analysis as well as, what are some nearby locations that wouldn't make it as suitable. And so kind of with CMRPC, I think it would be nice to have that and some of the reasons why this is suitable or why this isn't suitable. I think one thing that we came across in our analysis was that the way we did the GIS model, so we excluded any parcel that even touches the wetland. So I think what I noticed is on Green Street, there are parcels that, only partially are part of a wetland and they're big enough that we can A&R them. And, A&R, so that means you split the lot so that one part of the lot you can leave for conservation purposes and the other part affordable housing. So I think that's a second scenario where, in case we don't, like the existing parcels that we found, we can kind of go to these ones that have wetlands within them at least, and then kind of cut them out because some of them are large enough to be pretty manageable.
To divide it.
Yeah, to divide it. So that's kind of the second step.
Good. That's great. This,
Yeah, so I think let me know, you can, which ones, I think you see the bigger parcels, right, for priority, I think that's but I think just let me know, you can also do a couple research a little bit, but let me know which ones you like to,
Can I, Northman's sake, that looks like is that
yeah, let me see which ones are those.
where Selco's going though? That's what I
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
I know one of them,
It looks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I,
yeah, one of them is where Selco is going, the other ones are
Okay.
not.
and the other ones aren't.
Yeah. And actually, so like do you see the ones, Eaton Pond, this area? Do you know, like? what I'm
That's
trying-
off of
this
Walnut
one?
Street, correct?
Yes.
Eaton Pond, yeah.
Not Walnut Street.
No.
It's, there's Main Street, it's right under Main Street. Like, there's Dean Park and then right below. So there are those parcels. So there are a lot of tiny ones. I only
Okay.
included it one, but there are over like 15 or 20 of them.
Okay.
And so that could be a thing where we could combine them and also, but just for the ease of the list,
Right.
because there were so many tiny
Mhm.
parcels,
Yeah.
like 0.2, 0.1.
Okay.
So I just took one of them. So I'm treating one like 15 as one because they're very tiny. So to maybe merge them as well. So that's another contingent or another thing that came across.
And with these here, the smaller ones, the ones that you showed us in the past that had the roads already, paved roads?
Some of them had paved roads and some of them didn't. So then maybe if you combine them, you can have a large enough parcel that at least has frontage on a road. I think that was the idea. But yeah, so I think this is good progress, and I can work with CMRPC to actually do this. Something interesting that I saw at MHP conference was MHP worked with regional planning agencies in the Berkshire and Western Massachusetts and made something similar. It's kind of like a data tool for all land in Western Massachusetts in certain counties that are developable for affordable housing and also potentially developable. Like, oh, it's an old institution, it could sell. So that was something that they did very powerful. They kind of went through. That was the second day. It was very very thorough and very data driven. So it was very interesting to see how they did that. So that would be something I could also kind of, I tried to attend a lot of the sessions that were kind of related to what we're doing now.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's,
And they would help us identify or understand how many units could fit using the same build-out analysis that you were just
Yeah,
talking about.
ideally that would be something we can work with MHP and TMRPC to kind of develop something in parallel.
so then we can go back and look at the other paperwork and figure out what the amount and the cost and all that from, just a rough idea. The information that you gave us, that's,
Mm-hmm.
we'll apply after we can identify and figure, like the basic stuff.
Exactly.
We'll get more detailed into this. I'm getting it.
No, it's not easy. I had to read the build-out analysis a couple of times to understand it, and I still probably need, especially like the way they kind of calculate the housing. So I had to look that up
Yeah.
a bit.
And there are a lot of steps to get this,
There are a lot of
Right,
steps.
right.
Yep,
you
yep.
know, to get this to break ground and, have housing. So it's a long ways to go, but
Right.
this is a start to identifying it and, figuring out which property or which land here is buildable for us.
Has the
Yeah.
potential to be built and
Right.
and then go from there.
Yeah, and again, I think the build-out analysis, we're looking at it from affordable housing and open space as well. So I think our office, the planning department, is looking at ways to achieve the goals of preserving and protecting conservation areas and open space, as well as increasing the number of affordable housing units in Shrewsbury. And I think the notion that, both of them are kind of at odds, we want to be able to be like, we can actually achieve both if we work together and identify goals that we can achieve.
Excellent.
So I'm thinking that, for next steps,
Mhm.
maybe we have identified here
Yeah,
over a dozen locations.
right.
And, if we can look at the larger parcels and see if, have the team look at that and report back to see if, what are, any challenges, if any, that we might have.
Okay.
Any other thoughts?
No, I think that's a good start. Right, because if there's not a road, we probably don't want to pursue that because the
Mhm.
cost of building a road is going to be. Does that make
It makes sense.
sense?
Next item, rental assistance program update.
Yeah, I think so. At the MHP conference, I did I had the chance to interact with the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust of Westboro. And he told me that, they just closed their their rental assistance program because they ran out of money because they expended it all for the program. I think our initial understanding was they stopped because the way the website, their Metro West website, the housing agency that they collaborated with, it looked like they actually closed the program. So I looked back to the minutes and also the agenda on the Affordable Housing Trust in Westboro and found out that they actually spent all the money and kind of found a summary of the program. And I reached out to the planning department. I'm going to talk with them next week, or either next week or in 2 weeks. And I'm talking to the Westboro, going to talk to the Westboro Family Services outreach coordinators, which is actually an umbrella of Shrewsbury Family Services, something interesting to find out. So the way Westboro ran their rental assistance program was they had the trust send the funds directly to the property, the landowners, and they had Metro West Development, which is the regional housing agency, to kind of vet the applications. But something that they kind of ran into a problem was some of the or parts of the application were very difficult for certain residents. Some of the requirements to submit certain documentation made the process delayed. And so they hired they worked with the liaison, which was the Westboro Family Services coordinator, and she actually helped many residents with the application, explained it to them. So along with a regional housing agency, I think it would be an immediate intermediary between the person who vets the application and the applicant, so that the applicant can submit the correct information and understand what is expected of them when trying to apply for rental assistance. So I think we understand, okay, we have either a mix of CPA funds or we have the Affordable Housing Trust funds. We kind of understand that, but understanding how the policy, the rental is implemented, I think is very important. So I'm going to meet with the Westboro, the Family Services Coordinator, next week.
Yeah, and did they say what was the cost to manage this?
Yeah, so let me just look at the summary. I have a couple of notes.
Can you remember how long they ran it for?
Yeah, so they provided up to 2 months. So they had 2 different types of rental assistance. Where is this?
This is good information listed, like what the problem, like why people, the reasons for assistance.
Yeah.
And a lot of them look like they're kind of short-term issues,
Right.
couple months.
Yeah, so they had 2 different, there's this in the summary and background. It was a pilot program, they were just trying to assess if there was a need. And if there wasn't a need, they would discontinue. And so I think because they ran out of money, they're going to continue it again because they expended all the funds. So they had 2 types of rental assistance: a stabilization fund. So they would fund up to 2 months rent due to any financial setback or need. And then rent mitigation was paying up to $500 per month in rent for up to 4 months to mitigate the impact of burdensome rent increases. And it was launched in January 2025 and ended in March 2025. A total of 30 stabilization grants, up to 2 months rental relief was given to households, an amount totaling about $120,000, with an average of $4,000 per household. And they also kind of gave a breakdown of what type of households. There were 17 single person households, and over 46% of the households included someone aged 55 or older. As seniors age, with rents increasing and cost of living, it's not just in Shrewsbury, but all towns. Many seniors are increasingly finding it difficult to age in place. So I think rental assistance is helping in that. There were other various hardships cited, including income loss, health issues, car repairs, general lack of sufficient income, the eviction notices. So these were some of the reasons some of the applicants talked about why they applied for rental assistance.
So they awarded 30 grants. How many total applications were submitted? Did they touch on
Let's
that?
see. 14.
Sorry.
I'm just looking demographics, so 14 plus 7. They have it on the second page.
I do.
It's 3. Plus 2 plus 4. I think about 30. Yeah, about 30 households. I think they helped.
They
have-
30, you know, but my question was, do you know how, or did they say how many applications they received?
I can ask. I don't think in this, but when I talked to the outreach coordinator for family services, who kind of help applicants, I can find out how many they did.
Right.
And I know they spent about 24,000 in to give to in service for the services that the housing agency provided in vetting the applications.
In addition to the 120?
In addition, yes.
Okay.
So 24K, award 120, program lasted 3 months, or just under 3 months.
Let me see.
Um,
Yeah, just under 3 months.
So there is a need,
Mm-hmm.
but just curious to know, how many applicants and, I'm not gonna call it a Band-Aid approach, but at least we can bridge, the gap for those that, suffered some, issues with their finances, with their
Right.
income.
And I think a lot of these people probably would not qualify for any state, a relief like Section 8 vouchers. So I think this is where we can come in and kind of bridge, be the bridge, or the gap that they earn too much to qualify for certain state programs out of relief, and they don't earn well enough to they don't earn enough to kind of support their rent. So I think that's kind of the gap or the population we're trying to serve. So I think Westboro's is one. I'm going to also reach out to either Maynard or Littleton, who are also running rental assistance programs. So because the Westboro one, it's unique because they didn't have CPA until this year, I believe. I think they just passed CPA, so they were using most of their funds through fee and lieu, or through their trust funds.
So I just have a question. When they came up, did they just figure like $2,000 a month per person based on like the average rent, or did they kind of take what the person actually, if their rent was $1,800, and would they give them 18?
That's a good idea. That's a good question.
Is it just, or was it you qualify for this program which allows you the $2,000 a month?
That's a good question. I should look into that.
And I have a question.
Okay.
So, saving people like with a couple of months of rent, I mean,
Mhm.
it can seem like, be like a lifetime and a lifeline for folks. But how many folks are still in those homes?
Mm-hmm.
Or was this truly like a Band-Aid where
Right.
bought them time, well, like I said, which is
Just
valuable
yeah.
because it can give you time to make plans. So, I'd be curious to find out like how many of those 30 people are still in those homes?
Okay.
Or
And
did they end up losing it in the end?
You can put stipulations on these as well. If we're paying the landlord, for example, if it's rent mitigation, we can pay the landlord direct,
Mm-hmm.
right? And in accepting those funds, we can say that, they'll have to put any of the eviction proceedings on hold
Right.
for 6 months.
Yeah, we can
Give them
have.
an opportunity then to, find, employment or get back to the workforce.
Right.
Yeah, anything is
Yeah.
helpful.
Mhm.
Anything, say that it's not
Yeah.
a great program. I'm just curious to see, like,
Well, it's interesting.
folks
Yeah.
are still in their
The
homes.
numbers here, 16 of the awardees were at less than 30% of AMI, if I'm reading this correctly here, so.
Yeah.
And what is it, 29 were at 50 or under.
And the majority of people just are one household, one person in the household, so
Yeah.
it's,
Right.
Thank you for giving us this information.
Mm-hmm.
And appreciate the work that you're doing in this, because I think, we want to make sure that if we offer this as a program, that it's sustainable,
Mhm.
and that we don't run out of money too.
Right.
I think that that's very helpful. I have a question. In this memo, they reference in the end here, MGL Chapter 59, Section 50,
Mhm.
this property tax exemption for
Yeah.
affordable housing rental units.
Yeah.
Is that
Right.
something that our trust could also explore, or do we?
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, so this was either the March or April, no, we didn't have, we had an April meeting where we had a memo and there were certain policies that we're looking at.
Yeah.
One of them was an affordable housing tax exemption, where you have, as a homeowner, if you rent out your unit to someone who earns or someone at an affordable rate, 80%, less than 80% AMI, you can qualify for a certain tax exemption. And so I did not realize that Westboro was doing this until I saw this
Right.
a couple of days ago. But Great Barrington is one that we talked to, and they have an ADU pilot program as well, where they're actually paying people in loans at 0% interest in order to help finance the construction of an ADU. So I'm working on that memo right now. I think one of the things that we were coming across is we were working with our assessor, and our assessor talked about certain policies that might make it difficult, if this the tax exemption comes from the general fund. There's certain fund, that would be a burden. Would it be a burden to residents? So we're kind of doing a deeper dive, because at Great Barrington, the Affordable Housing Trust did bring it up and recommended it to the select board, but the select board was like, "Oh, we actually need more time to review it." So I'm not sure if they're proceeding with that anymore. And when we talked to their planner, they were like, "Oh, let's kind of wait and see what other towns are doing." So I think a lot of towns are just waiting and seeing.
I have a, excuse me.
No.
I have a question on this too, like, if you have a 6 units,
Mhm.
apartment units,
Yeah.
and you deem 4 of them
Yeah.
affordable, is the tax break on the whole thing, or just those?
Just those
4
units.
Units.
Yeah.
So they would have to,
And I think ideally we would try to have the criteria so that it wouldn't be like major apartment units. It'd be probably people with an ADU, or people in like a 2-family, like who
Right.
own the 2-family in one of them.
or I mean, I don't know, in-law apartments.
In-laws are no.
They don't count.
They don't
I was just trying to figure, people put in houses and say, oh, well, 30% of my house is affordable housing, and.
No, we're there. I think we have clear kind of guidelines from the building department and planning of what is an ADU and what is an in-law. But yeah, I think that's something we are kind of working with on a memo with that. But I think there's some back and forth between our assessors and us of we're trying to understand some of the conditions, and they're trying to understand, because it's a fairly new law, the affordable housing tax exemption. And I think we talked about it at our April meeting when the housing authority was here, and I think that was something that it was an easier creation of units, but it would not it could be potentially a tax burden to the town. So I think we were reviewing other options, but if some other towns have that, we can also explore that. So that's on the books, that policy. So we're working on analyzing that. Any other questions?
All good?
I'm good.
All right. Moving on, the Affordable Housing Trust CPC funding agreement update.
Yeah, so we had a meeting through the subcommittee of the CPC members and the Affordable Housing Trust members about 1 or 2 Fridays ago, I believe. I have to see. No, it was in May, end of May. Let's see. I believe it was the 23rd of May. So we met, and I think we were initially going to meet in April, and we asked the subcommittee that the planning department would need more time to finalize some of the certain language within the agreement. We kind of looked at what other towns were doing in their funding agreements between their Affordable Housing Trust and their community preservation committees. And we kind of incorporated some of those comments and some of that language in our own agreement. And once we did that, we met in May. Once we decided we wanted to present this to the subcommittee, we did in May, and they had a couple of comments as well. We incorporated those comments. We had town council also weigh in on this last draft, and we incorporated town council comments as well. And now we have a draft. And I think this email, should I add it in the agenda? But this was from our director of planning, Chris McGoldrick, who sent an email attached with the draft funding agreement to the members of the trust and to the members of the CPC. So our intention was to have the members of the trust review this, see if they have any questions, and then at the July meeting come back or have a more formal presentation of that and see if they have any questions.
And it will be presented to both committees.
To both committees in July. That's the idea. But I think the members of the CPC were satisfied. I think one major question was, do we have are the funds that we receive from the CPC in our or a separate account? And we have all these checks that we report to them. They are aware of what we're spending, and we have a list whenever we want to apply for funding. We would always apply with a list of programs that we do so that they know what we are intending to do. And so I think these are some of the things that we hashed out, and yeah, I think this is good progress for that.
I think it's excellent progress.
Yeah.
Excellent.
No, it was a lot of work with,
It's a lot of work.
everyone involved.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that we got all of the questions answered.
Right.
I think we're all in a good place.
Yeah.
Looking forward to, moving on and, putting some projects in the pipeline. Which
Exactly.
is excellent.
And to use this together, and the trust is still the trust, the
Yeah.
CPC, but combined,
Yeah.
we have a working agreement,
Right.
and it's good.
Yeah, so I know that this was distributed, I think it was yesterday. I was away this past week, so I don't know one day from another, but if you can just, take a look at it and comment on it. I know that Madam Vice Chair and I sat down to it and we're
Yeah.
very well familiar with it.
Uh-huh.
But, please feel free to fire off with any questions you might have.
Looks like it was sent Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So one of the, I guess, when the CPC funds will go into the trust fund,
Mm-hmm.
If there's restriction on the CPC funds, they won't be used in that project. Like the trust, just for an example,
Yeah.
if you did with Habitat for Humanity and a house was gonna have a rehab and the roof wasn't covered by CPC funds, you couldn't use that, those funds would remain in the trust and not be used. But we would have the option to use the
Trust fund.
trust funds for that part of the project.
Yeah.
And I think I read in here, while I have you, to help me understand,
Mm-hmm.
The monies in that fund
Mm-hmm.
can collect interest,
Yes.
and the interest is ours.
Yes, but the interest is collected to that account.
To the account, right?
Yeah.
To the shared account.
Yeah, to the share
To
account.
the
To the
shared
shared account, not just to the trust. It goes
Right.
into
But I
Okay.
believe our own trust funds are also collect interest.
They do.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Because then maybe I misread it or misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't use the funds
Mm-hmm.
in this separate account, it would go back to CPC at some point.
At some point, yes.
And so, does that interest go back to them, or does that stay within that account?
Within that account.
That's it.
As you know, the agreement shall remain in effect as long as the trust holds the funds or any portion of the funds. So I think that was also a thing. You know, do we accumulate it? Do we ask a certain amount every year, or ask the same amount? That was also something that we were talking about.
And the reason for us doing, because I think there was in here about doing an annual review, perhaps.
Yeah,
I think
annually,
fine.
trust provide the committee and the select board with a written update on the funds utilized for the purposes defined in the agreement.
Right, and so the reason why it's January, it's the calendar year and not the fiscal year, is so that we can ask in time for the annual.
For the annual town meeting, and CPC also has their they usually ask for eligible projects around
That time.
November and December, around the end of the year. So kind of we will align with CPC's calendar as well.
That makes sense. Thank you.
But yes, please take a look and let me know if you have any questions or comments. Feel free to email me and the planning department.
I think just one technical question. So that this agreement would need approval from the majority of our trust,
Mm-hmm.
a majority of CPC,
Mm-hmm.
and a majority of the select board? Because I see them as signatories.
I believe so, yes.
And so if the thought is to have this presented to the trust and the CPC in July,
Yeah,
what is the timeline for it to be presented to the select board?
that's a good question. I can get back to you. Ideally, it would be within the month at the August, anytime in August to the select board, once we hash that out.
Okay.
I don't anticipate that we would have too many comments, but if we do, we can take some more time from either
Comments from CPC?
from CPC.
Okay.
But if we do, we can kind of incorporate any of those comments and address them.
Great.
And be hopefully in time or to present at select board in August.
Great. Any other comments? Great. Next item, any correspondence?
Oh, yes, we have correspondence, an email dated May 29th from Louise O'Neill, the Assistant Director of Planning and Economic Development. And this email is a notification of a comprehensive permit filing for 104 Main Street. I don't know if the members of the trust were able to see that, or do you kind of want, I'll kind of give a quick, brief summary of what is there. So 104 Main Street, the parcel about, 5.83 acres. It's a proposed 40B development with over 300 units. And so I think they filed with the town clerk, I think in either at the end of May or early June. So they are opening their hearing at the zoning board on June 30th. They did have a community meeting, I believe, last Monday or 2 Mondays ago. And let me just see that. So I think that was something that we wanted the trust to know, but also, again, because it is an affordable housing project, maybe, if I think the idea was, the trust can review that and then have any comments that they're either, any of their comments or concerns, as well as, maybe have something written so that we can submit that to the zoning board and use that as evidence, that we reviewed this as an affordable housing trust, and and the zoning board can use that as, we have an affordable housing board in town that reviews this, and we have their support. So that way, or either with their comments or concerns, and kind of incorporate those comments.
Isn't this the project that select board had issue with? Okay. So has things changed
I'm
since,
not sure how you.
because I think a letter was going out to like Mass Housing
So
regarding
we
this
did
project.
submit that. We did submit that letter. I don't think we got a response.
Okay.
If that's the question.
So I believe this 40B is not, does not have a lip or an agreement with the town. So I think this 40B will be more, I feel, something more, not as friendly that they say as compared to other 40Bs,
Yeah.
but hopefully we can, work with the developer to achieve our goals as a town and our affordable housing needs. So I'll keep the board in the loop. Along with that, we do have another housing project proposed at 525 Hartford Turnpike near Herb's Chambers Ice Cream. It's a mixed use. It's about 250 units
That's
of
the
housing.
Tenella.
That's Tenella,
The
yes.
Tenella.
Okay.
And so that is using the Route 20 overlay district, and they're going to also appear for the zoning board in June. And so I think that was what I was talking about earlier, of like how we can use some of these projects as opportunities to educate or engage the community in some way. Either, through writing through the planning department, or having, attending whatever community sessions, going to people. I think that was at least my idea of how we can reach out to people and, talk to them about the housing needs of the community.
Is the Tenella in the MBTA zoning?
I think it's just outside.
And it abuts, this might be off base, but I was looking at something today, and the MBTA Catalyst Fund
Yes.
for affordable housing,
Mhm.
is that something that would apply to a project?
The MBTA Catalyst Fund is usually
Project or
to
it's not?
support a project infrastructure needs. So if you need a road or something else to support that, we can look at that. But it used to be a rolling fund, but I don't think it is anymore. We have to apply through One Stop now. So we would have to wait another year for that MBTA Catalyst funds. But we would be eligible to apply for that.
Because we have did we get our district compliance?
Yes, we
determination
did.
letter?
Yes. I believe it's also officially in the zoning bylaw as well, the Muni Code bylaw, just as a few days ago.
Right, that answers that. I was curious, I'm like, what is this?
And any additional comments? No. Before we adjourn, next meeting date?
I believe it is July 10th.
That's what I have. That'll work.
Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. I believe we might have it in this room as well, because I think planning board is also on that day. So we'll have to see.
Nice.
Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
second,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.